Okay, so now we're gonna have a look on the other channel, like the roughness, the spec, and the bump map. So this is where the node graph becomes really interesting, because everything that you created for your diffuse, we're gonna reuse it for all of our channels. So we don't need to recreate any nodes, we're just gonna reuse everything that we create for the diffuse. So this is my own way to proceed for that. So this is not the mandatory way to work with the node graph, but I developed this workflow with the years of experience, and now I found it pretty efficient and pretty quick. So I'm gonna explain you why my node graph looks like this and why I work this way all the time. So first thing is, why do I work from right to left? So this is just because of Mari. So when you create a new merge like this, as you can see, the mask is on the right side of the merge. Of course you can move it and put it on the left, but because by default is on the right, I developed this way to work. So now I work from right to left. So for example here, how well does the texture? So we saw that we used the mask urim here, and as you can see I reuse it into that merge. So then for all the maps we're gonna do this, we're gonna reuse nodes from here and reimpact them into here. So as you can see, if I zoom out, so we have the backdrop with the laser here we have our metal, the brass, mask brass, green patina, glass scratch, and then on the middle here we have the rough. So the big backdrop, the gray backdrop here, is our roughness map. Then on the left we have our spec map, and then our bump map. So let's take a look at our roughness map. So like I said, I will reuse everything from right to the left. So one thing to keep in mind is that, as you can see on my viewport, I put the display behind. So view, display properties, so I put the background here, background color with a middle gray. So that means that's kind of how to say, yeah, that's kind of a landmark, so to see my value. So here first I have a gray constant, so if I press 1, my object will be here. So you'll so maybe you don't understand why the gray constant here looks brighter than the background color. So this is just because of the color management. So here you have a triangle with red, green and blue. So that means we are on sRGB mode. So if I select my gray constant here, press 1, we can see that here we have a gray color but with sRGB. If I press here, as you can see, my object disappear in the gray, but the object doesn't disappear from my scene just because he has a gray value. So when you have the sRGB mode for the black and white value, you will not have the proper feedback, you will not have the proper value visible. I mean, that's pretty complicated to explain, but when you see as sRGB, you see your color with a linear space. When you turn off the sRGB mode, you will see the raw value. So now we have the gray value. Here we have the gray value in linear space. So for the roughness, the spec, the bump and all the mask, we want to see the value in row. So we want to see the value not in linear but in row. So I'm gonna press here and keep it as row. So now the object is here, but it's blending with the background. So then I use this cloud to put some value on the laser here, as you can see. But I'm gonna use this merge here, put it as luminosity. So let's check here, this node in linear looks like this. Put it in row, luminosity to make it in black and white. Then I'm gonna put a set range to raise the value. So here is the value that we have now. Then I will use the brightness lookup here to remap the value as I want. So if I double click here, press here to see the curve editor, and as you can see I remap the value. So the curve editor is pretty useful to remap the value where you want. So if you want darker, if you wanna isolate some value that you like, I mean, the brightness lookup, it's pretty useful to create the rough, the spec and the bump, because you can remap the value as you want. So then we have our gray constant, and I'm gonna apply this. So I keep it the gray value behind to have a landmark. So here is brighter than here, so that means this is less than 0.5 in the value. And then I will continue this way. So here we have a level. So we have our laser texture. I'm gonna set range it as well, like this. Put it here, blending with the nodes on top. And then I will continue this way. So I will reuse all the nodes that we created here for the roughness. So I'm not gonna comment every single nodes because we already did it for the diffuse. So I'm gonna just go through the whole graph and see what kind of adjustment I made in order to have my roughness texture for the laser. So as you can see here, I use directly the texture from here into here, but sometimes I will just use the nodes here as mask and then control the mask with an HSV. So here I've got an HSV and I just set the value as I want. Then we have this I use as mask, so this is the detailed paint. Use it as a mask, so I want the value here a bit more rough than the rest. So you can see this is brighter here on the bottom. Then I continue. So this is the mask, so the little dots and the scratch. So yeah, how to create that kind of dot connection. So when you have a connection between two nodes here, just press Ctrl and Mari will create the dots at the middle of each connection, and then you just have to select the one that you want and Mari will create the dots for you. So this is very cool to keep your node graph very clean. So as you can see, my graph is very square, very straight. Like, I don't like curvy transitions, so I'm trying to keep it very straight, very square, very clean. So this is very easy to understand what I did. So we were here at this dot here, so this is the mask. And then I use just a color. So imperfection here, select that node, and as we can see I put the dots and the scratch a bit rougher. So if I change the color here, I can change the value of the scratch. So I don't want the scratch more shiny than the rest because this is laser, and for me this is a bit deeper, so we can see what there is behind this. Then I continue. Let's see what is this mask. So this is a scratch. So this one, he wasn't very visible on the diffuse, but then on my roughness map it's a bit more obvious, as you can see. So this is the end of my roughness map here. So I have bake point, same done for the diffuse. So it's red because I just tweaked the value. So just delete it, bake it. Okay, so the bake point is done. And then at the end of that, I've got set range. So double click on the set range. What did I do? Okay, I just put the black value a bit more black, so the result is a bit more shiny. So here, if we take a look at our final rough texture, so we can see that the little grain of the laser are a bit more shiny, the veins in between are a bit more rough, then we have the scratch a bit more rough, and here we have our painted details here a bit more rough as well. So this is the rough for the laser. So then I connect this into the main merge. So as you can see, I have my gray constant here, work with the laser, all that node that I reuse from the diffuse, and then I've got my mask here that I use for the diffuse. I reuse it, connection, followed connection here, connected into that merge. So now we've got only the laser visible, but the metal is still here. It's just because it's gray, so we don't see, we can see it. So let's continue this way for the metal. So reuse nodes from here. Let's take a look. So here is the texture that we made for the diffuse. Remember, with the cloud and the manifold to remove some value. So for the roughness, I'm gonna keep it simple, like only broad details. So here is our dust texture. So call it with the radio node, right click, mist, connect to transmitter. So I have the dust texture here. I put the luminosity to make it black and white, and then the set range to change the value, to remap the value, and then here same radio node that I use as a mask. Let's check the result on the metal. So this is the result. So if we check before, so the dust is gonna be more rough, because this is something that will come with the time on top of the metal. And then we have this texture, so that's gonna be the smudge. So I want the smudge a bit more shiny, so I've got set range here, a level. Why? So in the level I will invert the white point and the black point, so that's the same thing than an invert node, except that I do it into my level. So I took the black point, put it at 1, and the white point I put it at 0. So now I've inverted the value, add it to my merge, and here is the result. So now we have the smudge. If I double click on the merge in multiply, we have the smudge on top of our texture, and then a level to remap the value a bit, and then my mask for the metal here that I reuse, followed connection here, and plug it into this merge, and now we have the rough for the laser and the rough for the metal. And we're gonna do the same for the brass. So the brass is pretty simple. material, so I just took the final the final connection, put it as luminosity, as you can see here, luminosity of the brass, invert, because I want a little scratch like this, and then level everything to make it much more shiny, so yeah, this way. And then we're gonna use our mask, so the mask brass that we create here, we're gonna connect it, so still from here, follow the connection here into that merge. So now these pretty dark value are gonna be visible only on the edges. So it's gonna be only visible on the edges, as you can see here, and we can see the area that we paint together before here, that it's much more shiny than the rest. So like the reference here, the brass is more shiny than the rest. And then we're gonna do the same thing for the green patina, so I just use my Untitled Texture, so this one, put it in black and white with the luminosity node, level to make it a bit more rough, as we can see here, and then reuse the mask that we create together. So this one here, so follow the connection here, connect it to the merge. Oh, look at this, I had a level here just to raise the value a bit more. So let's have a look. So here is the result. So without the level it looks like this, with the level looks like this. So as you can see, it was better to put a level just to raise the mask, the value of the mask. Let's continue with the glass. So the glass is gonna be pretty simple as well. I'm gonna just take the dust, so that node here, put it in luminosity. So this is the texture that I take for the glass. Set range. So the dust is gonna be brighter than the rest, than the middle, so that's because I want the corners more rough than the top. So remember that it's a bit bumpy. And then just impact it with my material mask here. And here is our roughness for the binoculars, our roughness map. So pretty quick to create, pretty simple, just to reuse everything that we made for the diffuse and re-impact it for the roughness. And at the end of that, I just put the scratches, so use the cloud as luminosity. So maybe it was black and white, so maybe I don't need to do that. Use this node here, the set range, merge with everything. Now we've got this. So as I told you, this mask here is more visible in the rough than the diffuse. So let's double click on this merge here, with and without. So as you can see now, we're gonna have some very shiny scratches on our metal. And here we have a tile texture with scratches. That's gonna be micro detailed scratches. So I bake it and put it on multiply and put it on top of everything just for very small detail, so it's almost not visible, but maybe we'll feel it with the shading. And here we go, that's the end of our roughness map. We can add the bake point here at the end because we don't have any bake point for the whole roughness, so we can do that, or we can delete it. And then I just create the new channel, so let's go on the channel, right click, add channel, call it as RGH or RGH here, roughness, and connect the last node, so this one, into my channel here, roughness map. And here we go, we're done with the roughness map. Let's have a look on the spec on the next video.